welcome to the Drinks Break Show with Ridhima Pathak, and I have with me a man who's very, very well versed with the world of pro sports. Well, of course, you've seen him as an analyst, as a commentator. Of course, if you're watching Crick Buzz, he's all over the channel. But here, in the capacity that I want to talk to him, is as the former team director of the IPL franchise Kolkata Knight Riders, and now the CEO of the Prime Volleyball League, Joy Bhattacharjya. Welcome, sir. Welcome to the
Welcome
show.
and thank you so much for having me, Ridhima. Just my apologies to everyone watching. If I have to wipe myself a bit, I've just finished a run and I'm still sweating. But it's not a bad thing to be fit if you are working in sport, actually, to be honest with you.
It's a fantastic thing, and that's how we roll. We're all candid about it. It's completely okay. So, the idea of the channel is that I'm an engineer, and a lot of people that I met during my career in sports, as a presenter, I met a lot of engineers. I met a lot of people from BCom. I met a lot of people who did their MBA from IIMs of the world, and they came into the field. So there was not one way to become something in the world of sports unless you were a former player. So the idea is like, we bring forward our experiences, and for all those youngsters who wanting to have a career in sports, this could probably be a bit of a guiding light for them. And as now the CEO of the Prime Volleyball League, one thing that comes to my mind is, having leagues in India and how supportive it is to various sports. So my question to you is that starting a new league in this country where volleyball is not only in the top five watch sports in the country, how challenging is it, or is it a market that needs to be tapped in, and that is a motivation?
Yeah, it's both, actually. To be honest with you, the big thing about volleyball, the big problem about volleyball is it's hugely played everywhere in the country because it's the easiest sport to play. It requires very little space. And it's like football, it's resourceless. You can play with two strings and one net and across two coconut trees, as happens so often in rural, Tamil Nadu or Kerala or even Rajasthan. So the truth of it is, it's a sport that's played a lot, but because it's never on television, nobody actually follows it. Therefore, there are no heroes because the only time you really see volleyball is during the Olympics or the Asian Games. And there it's really watched because I know that I've seen the data from Sony and it seems to suggest that volleyball has a following. Now, the biggest problem has been the federation because for the last 40 years, they've fought with each other. They've had court cases. They've been banned twice. And right now, also, they're in the status. So, we started in 2019 to try and do it with the federation. And then, after a year, when they asked us for bribes, we said we'll do it privately. Fortunately, now the world body, that means the International Federation and Volleyball World, which is the commercial arm of the International Federation, is actually working with us because the one thing I want to tell people, which we don't know, and a lot of people will tell you stories about the fact of why Indian sport in such bad shape. It is, but therefore the opportunity is also huge. The second thing I can tell you is that I worked with FIFA for a few years as the project director of the Under 17 World Cup, and after that in volleyball. And between Lausanne and Zurich, I mean, in Switzerland, there are about 35 of the world's biggest federations in sport.
Right.
Because they're all there because the IOA is there, everything is there. And I can tell you one thing, that each and every one of them at least once a month discuss how do we crack the Indian market. So you have a very strange situation here where nothing is happening here and you think there's a lot of frustration, and yet the world is trying to beat a door down to come to India. Huge market, 1.4 billion people. Only one sport is really popular, that's cricket. No other sport is close to being cricket, and such a big opportunity.
Yeah. So how do we crack the Indian market? What are your
I think
tips?
Okay, so I think we have already started. Firstly, professional leagues, and it's made such a difference. If you see the ecosystem of cricket, when I was in the IPL in 2008 with KKR, forget everything else. A young player like say an Ashok Dinda, then playing for Bengal, he would not have even access to the kind of physios, the trainers that the IPL bought in, the professionalism that was bought into the sport. And what follows after that? After the professionalism follows the fact that he's playing against the best players of the world. So if he can get Brendan McCullum out in the nets, he's not scared of anybody else. Before the IPL came, the gap between international cricket and domestic cricket was so huge that players would come out from domestic cricket and they'll go there and say, "Who's this Brett Lee?" Today, I mean, a player, Rishabh Pant would have faced a Dale Steyn in the nets. He's not scared of a Dale Steyn. He's seen him in the nets. He's probably sat and had a coffee with him. So that fear is gone, and therefore professionalism has already been bought in by leagues. And the second thing that leagues do is that they bring a certain amount of fitness, a certain amount of game knowledge. So right now in volleyball, I remember when I went to the first nationals, fantastic sport, great players, people are eating rice and sambar for lunch because that's what's been provided. Can you believe
Correct.
players
Correct.
playing two games, they are playing eating rice and sambar for lunch?
Yeah.
They basically, after that, we had a situation where, so now each and every team of our 8 teams, they are having their camps, and people like, David Lee, who's a, double Olympic medalist, one gold, one bronze medalist for the USA. He's the coach of the Bangalore team. The kind
Correct.
of things that they're doing in coaching, the kind of coaching they're getting, the kind of hydration they're getting, the kind of fitness training they're getting is unbelievable. Most importantly, the tactics that Indian volleyball is using is 30 years old.
Correct.
NIS particular learned in the 80s Soviet style. Volleyball has moved 30 years on. And it's now these new coaches who are coming to prime volleyball who are actually getting these new techniques. And so players are, it's like they are amazed by what they can do because there is no shortage rhythm of talent in our country.
I completely agree with that. Is because I hosted the Olympics, and I know that about 34 million viewership was there for volleyball. Even though Indian team, whatever, that was that. But even the success story that you did quote about the professionalism coming in here is still IPL, which is still cricket. And I feel that while we, as people who are on the other side of the fence, other side of the TV, other side, with the teams that are working with the sportsmen, are doing the bit, also kind of grooming talent. I think from the viewership point of view, what needs to be changed, and let's to come to think about it, it's ultimately business. So if people are not going to watch, these sports won't get encouraged.
Look, it's chicken and egg. You can't force people to watch. And I think the big thing is, I think great thing to see what Kabaddi did. Kabaddi threw the kitchen sink at it. They got everyone to promote it. They got every resource. And of course, let's face it, it's star sports. They have the kind of money and the kind have the ability to do it. But what they did was it promoted it consistently enough for Kabaddi to be a mainstream sport in India. And Kabaddi comfortably outrates everything other than the IPL. Comfortably. Okay.
Correct.
So that's what I'm saying. It is possible to do it. And India is a huge market. I mean, you look at it, you don't need to win India. If you look at the figures properly, Kabaddi dominates 5 markets. And in those 5 markets, they get such good ratings that everything else comes from those markets. So think of India as not as India. Think of India as a, it is a continent. It's like Western Europe. You
Yeah.
win 5 states in India, 6 states in India, you do really well there and you're really big. So there are huge opportunities here. We don't see it that way. And I think the other thing is that whenever you have a league, what's happened is, I'll give you a very good example. Wrestling did some great work early on. They had very good ratings. And what happens, the federation fights among each other and it's all gone for a six. Now what happens is that every time a federation or the people in the federation who have never seen money before sniff money,
Hmm.
things go wrong. Now, it doesn't happen with cricket because the people in cricket are already wealthy, already powerful. So they may play all the games themselves, but they don't allow it to impact the game. The national
Correct.
team is not impacted because of the politics in the BCCI. It hasn't been for the last 20 years, and I think that's a great credit to Indian cricket.
Correct.
But these people are impacted, and what we have done with volleyball is very interesting. We have a private league where the league actually, the team owners are also league owners, so that means also they are there for the long term. And bees, even if their team does badly, if the league does well, their stake in the league will also, the value increases. And that's the
Right.
only way to keep them, because what used to happen, I'm telling you, like hockey, guys came on and they were interested. Why? Year one, oh, MS Dhoni is a team owner, I'm going to be a team owner, I'm going to sit beside him and have coffee with him.
Hmm.
My Firstly, the guy who's got me on has told me that, in 3 years you'll make a profit. The truth is, no sport can make a profit in 3 years. It's not possible. IPL made a profit. Teams in IPL made a profit after 8, 10 years. You're going to think you're going to make a profit after 3 years. So these things don't happen. They'll sell that story. The guys will come. They lose crores for a couple of this thing, and then they said, "I've sat enough beside Dhoni and Abhishek Bachchan. I don't need to do this anymore." And whole business model is flawed. And if you don't have partners, A, who are in for the long term, B, who understand the business, and C, who are invested in the overall building of the league, you're never going to have it. So I think it's slowly starting to happen because the first set of, remember, we had a rash of leagues after the IPL. And
Right.
now a lot of them closed down. And now I think you're going to see guys who've now understood these lessons, put their heads down. And I think you're going to see, I mean, more realistic leagues in India. And I think that's fantastic.
That is really, really good. And more so is because I think people in general have started seeing sports as a billion-dollar industry, also in terms of business, how we can grow in various other domains, not just the league itself. So here's my question is because I told you right in the beginning, is the audience has to take away something that they could probably look at in the sporting industry. So the question is that if today in this startup culture, there is a youngster out there who wants to be an entrepreneur and he sees कि यार मुझे अगला ललित मोदी बनना है. So, if he wants to have a league, a sporting league of his own, what are the ways he's supposed to go about it, and what are the first few steps the person should take?
See, there's a very simple thing. I have two, three very so I take guest lectures at IIM Cal and at MICA, and one of the
Right.
things I tell them is all of them, have a league of their own. They actually have a league, and in those leagues, players are bid for. So within their teams, players are bid for. Their team owners, their players. They have a league. People buy it, and it can be. I'm not serious money, but 50, 60,000 rupees can change hands or whatever. I
Right.
asked them, is that a league? So what does a league need? It needs to be competitive. Okay, it needs
Right.
to be firstly, it needs to be corruption free, because the moment you have corruption means you're gone. Sport dies if there's corruption. It needs to be competitive. It needs to have some people who are interested in the outcome, and it needs to be financially viable. So I'll tell you one interesting thing. If you go to any country in the world, okay, you have leagues at many levels, many,
Mm.
many, many levels, small leagues here, because that's how sport works. You will have a third division league in just Sao Paulo. You will have a small private basketball league in Texas. Okay.
Correct.
Now these guys don't need to be the NBA. They don't need to be the Premier League. But within that small market, they capture it, they do it well. For example, there are pockets of sport everywhere. So there is a league of volleyball which runs in Mizoram. Small place. What does it matter? Four local teams, six
Mm.
local teams. Within that system, they get enough local sponsorship to make things work.
Mm.
So it doesn't matter whether the budget is, 1 crore or 10 lakhs or 10 crores, as long as the books balance. So I'm
Mm.
saying there are plenty of 10 lakh opportunities which could become 1 crore opportunities, which could become 10 crore opportunities all over India. Can somebody in Indore start a tennis ball league? Fantastic. Get local companies to sponsor it. Teams, it'll cost you what, 50,000 to run a team. You can have a fantastic league, light it up well, get a ball which is a nice color, give prizes away. There are already tournaments like that in Bombay. In Bombay, you have tournaments where Maruti cars used to be given away at one time for softball, I mean, tennis ball, cricket. So, all those are opportunities, because the thing about Indian cricket is there's Khelo India and some amount of school sport, and there's a pyramid. Top of the pyramid, some professional leagues. बीच में कुछ नहीं है. And this is an opportunity waiting to happen. The truth is, people should just pick it up. The middle class of Indian sport needs to be populated, and it is a serious opportunity.
I think the problem that comes for these youngsters, and why only youngsters in general, people who get into the business of leagues, is how do they scale up? Say if they are on that platform that where they're making a crore or 2 crore or 3 crore, the idea is how do we scale up from here to there? Is because then the federations come in and then permissions come in.
So they don't need to take permissions. We've done the legal part, because when we started a private league in India, you can obviously understand how these things are. So there's something called the Competitions Commission of India, and that
Mm.
clearly says that you cannot debar anyone from playing any league, because it's called a right to livelihood. If a player wants to make a livelihood playing cricket, football, kabaddi, whatever it is, you cannot deny him. So there's enough legal evidence. The federations can't stop you. And actually, everywhere in the world, federations. So NBA is a private league. USA
Correct.
basketball is completely private. Is the state body. When they want NBA players for the Olympics, USA basketball talks to the NBA.
Mm.
And that's what the job of USA basketball is. It's the job of USA basketball is to make a nice national team. Their job is to promote grassroots basketball in America, and that's their job. Their job is not to run a business. And nowhere in the world do leagues run a business. The Premier League and the British Football Association are completely separate entities. The English football team is a completely separate entity from the Premier League. And the Premier League doesn't need to listen to them. And I think that is the balance, because finally, what do you want to do? You want to give sports people the chance to play. So you can scale up. The federations can't stop you. You can scale up. I've done the legalities. You have a problem, come reach out to me. I'll help you do that. I can send you the paper. There are enough CCI papers. There are enough lawyers who are willing to fight this for you. That should not be a problem. See, what happens is the reason why they get away with it is they threaten players.
Hmm.
They tell players, if you play for them, I'll ban you from playing for the national team.
Yeah.
So there has to be a way to. So there are many ways now you can get back at them. There's social media. There is pressure you can put upon the government. And remember, none of these federations are public bodies.
Yeah.
They're all private entities. So they're just as private as you are. And what they are saying is I'm a monopoly, and that's not true. You don't. The government of India does not allow you to have a monopoly on anything.
Yeah. Because it did happen. I don't know if you remember, there was UBA that came to India for basketball.
No,
Uh,
absolutely. Not only did they spoil the UBL, they did
yeah.
not allow. They never made a league of their own.
They never
Can
made a
I
league
tell
of their own. Yeah.
The NBA has been waiting for 10 years to come into India and do well. They know that India is the biggest market. I mean, I've had chats with them, I have many, many discussions. The truth is, these people will not do it because if they do it, then they lose power. Because what happens is this once this entity scales, basketball scales into what it deserves to be in India, 100 crore, 200 crore entity, none of these people have the competence to run it. And
Yeah.
that's what they're scared.
Yeah. But this is fantastic piece of information. I'm pretty sure very motivating to anybody who's watching this in order to dreaming about having a league of their own. But while I let you go, I'll ask you one question. What is that USP of the Prime Volleyball League? Why a viewer should watch it? Season 2 kicks off Feb 4th. Why should I watch the Prime Volleyball League?
Look, it's really good, exciting action. Okay, we've tinkered with the format. So the great thing is, International Volleyball FIVB call us. We are the lab of world volleyball because the kind of innovations we've tried, nobody has done it, and they're watching with a lot of interest. 15-point games. Okay, we have a super point. It's like non-stop action. And let me tell you one thing. In a lot of sports, you say, the difference between Indian players and the international teams and all. There's a huge difference. It's not there. Watch this volleyball. It's absolutely amazing. Olympic players come from abroad. You'll see the Australian Olympic captain. You'll see two Olympians. Players from 5 continents are coming. Literally 5 continents. Australia, South America. There are Brazilians. There are Colombians. There are Americans. There's players from all over. There are Polish players. There are Bulgarian players. They're playing coming from all over. It's a fun league, and it's like 1.5, 2 hours of packed action. Just watch it. It's fun. It's great fun.
Well, I don't know about the others. I'm on it. So I'm going to be watching it, sir. And thank you so much for joining. And thank you so much for finding the time to come and actually give us, the piece of information. There will be much more information that we'll need. Probably I start a league and I'm definitely going to be contacting you for that. So thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Ridhima. Thanks for having me here. Thank you.
All the best. All the best with the Prime Volleyball League.
Thank you.
Bye bye.